Welcome to the Alcohol Free Life podcast, brought to you by thesoberclub.com. I'm Janey Grace. This is for you if you've quit the booze or you'd like to, or maybe you're just sober curious. I'll bring you tips and motivation without any judgment, and there'll be inspiration from experts, quit-lit authors, and sober heroes. Hi, and welcome to the podcast. I hope you've had a wonderful Christmas and a good few days, whatever you've been doing. It's been really interesting in the Sober Club because, you know, we've got people who absolutely relish Christmas and they've really loved every moment of sometimes their first sober Christmas, which has been brilliant. And they've followed all the tips and really made sure that they've embraced keeping the ritual, changing the ingredients, and they've had a really wonderful first sober Christmas with all the trimmings, as it were. And then there are others who really knew that they had to protect their boundaries, so they just kept everything really quiet, just did it all totally on the low down, and didn't see family and friends, just holed up and had a day to themselves. One woman's kind of walked the dog and had some soup for lunch and went to bed early. And you know what? It's perfect. It really is. It's all about doing what works for you, isn't it? You gotta set your own boundaries and protect your sobriety, whatever it takes. So anyways, whatever you've been doing, if you're still sober, well, fantastic. Good for you. That's really all that matters, isn't it? So I'm very grateful because one of my Christmas presents was a little charm for what I call my sobriety bracelet. I got it the year that I quit alcohol, and then I've been adding a charm ever since. So as I record this podcast, I am almost 7 years sober. Last week I said I was 8. I gave myself another year. I'm not. I'm 7 years sober on December the 30th. So between now and when the next podcast comes out, I'll be turning 7 years sober, and I'll add my little charm, my little heart to my bracelet as a really lovely reminder for me. It's very special. I say it every year. It genuinely gets better every year. So no doubt I'll do more about that next week, because it's a really big thing. It feels so much more important for me now than my birthday or any date, really. It's just really incredible the difference that it makes to your life. So anyways, I thought what we do is have a little look back at the year gone. I'm going to just talk you through some of the stuff that I did on the podcast over the last year. If you listen to all of them, then this will be a little reminder for you. And if you haven't heard them, then this might help you decide which ones you want to go back and have another listen to. But just before we do that, the really hot news is that we have a free gift for everyone, all podcast listeners, wherever you are. This is a very special free gift to you from me and some of the sober coaches that I've trained. We have a little mastermind group called our Sober 360 Coaches Connect, and we've kind of clubbed together, as it were, and created a really special ebook for you. So we did one last year, and it actually got to something like #1 on the Amazon chart, on the ebook chart. So I really hope you'll do that for us again. All you have to do is go and download it for free. It's available via Amazon, so you do have to go by their rules, as it were. So in order to get it for free, you'll need to go to the soberclub.com /find a coach directory. I'll put the link for you in the show notes here, and you'll see it all across social media. Or if you just go to thesoberclub.com, at the top there'll be a link that sends you over to the directory page to download the ebook, and you can get that for free for about 5 days. And then I think there's a little a very small price on it, just because of the publishing situation, but you can still get a free copy courtesy of us. But what we would appreciate is if you would go to thesoberclub.com, click on the Find a Coach directory link, where you'll see the picture of the ebook, and download it from that link. And I really hope you'll enjoy it. And then, of course, give us a nice review as well. That would be amazing. We've absolutely not done this for money. This is just a little labor of love, and we just want you to enjoy it. It's called Sobriety Rocks, because it's the second in the series from last year. But this one is 25 sobriety tips for 2025. So we've just collated some of our kind of best tips really as to what's worked for us. And it's really, really interesting to read what's worked for different people. Not, the same thing doesn't work for everyone. And there's some really lovely gems of wisdom in there. There's also a few basics. So if you're just kind of starting out, there's a reminder of how to kind of create your sober self-care toolkit, if you like. And there's just some nuggets of wisdom that I hope you'll find really useful, whatever stage you're at. Obviously, if you're new to it all or you're planning to do dry January, it's absolutely perfect. Couldn't be more perfect. And if you've been sober for a while and you just want a reminder of some things to kind of lay foundations for your sobriety and your well-being, then hopefully you'll find that as well. It's very dip-inable. You can literally just, scroll through on your phone or your computer and just land on a tip and see how it makes you feel. So I really hope you'll enjoy it. It's Sobriety Rocks 25 Sobriety Tips for 2025 by myself and my fabulous sober coaches. On that note, if you are interested in training to be a coach, if you ditch the booze and you've been thinking about it for ages, then get in touch because we're getting full on our next training, and there's only a few places, as I'm sure you're aware, so we can have a chat about that. So let me share with you some of the things that we did over the year in terms of the podcast. If you're new to the podcast, this will remind you of some gems you can go back and listen to. So it has been an interesting year. It's been a year of well, some quite difficult stuff for me personally. I've had quite a lot going on, lots of which is, it's personal stuff, it's family stuff, but it honestly has not been the easiest year. It's probably been the year where I've what would be the word? I was going to say spent the most money, but that makes it sound as if I've enjoyed spending the money, but I haven't. It's been one of those years where everything has kind of gone wrong and money has been flying out of the door. And yet I've not felt any better for it. Things like needing a new roof and all of those kind of things, stuff that happens. My hideous work that I needed doing for my dental treatment at the beginning of last year, just a huge amount of financial stuff has been very tricky. Some family stuff that, I won't go into, but it's just not been the easiest year. That's the reality of it. But, there's something amazing about sobriety in that whatever life throws at you, you crack on, don't you? And just focus on the gratitude. By the way, I must just mention, of course, if you haven't yet, do sign up for our webinar, our session, our online session on Thursday, 2nd of January, because I'm really looking forward to that. We're going to be, just sharing how we can release what we want to let go of. There's quite a lot I want to let go of from last year, and what we want to focus on for the year coming. And we do all this with gratitude and with intention. It's all about setting intentions. So it's going to be a really special workshop, a good 1.5 to 2 hours, Thursday, 2nd of January at 5 p.m. UK time. You do have to register for this one. There's a small fee which goes to the Sober Club Giveback Fund. But if you can't afford to pay, just let me know. It's absolutely fine. But we will send you the recording if you can't make it. If you sign up for it, but you can't make it, you'll have access to the recording and also a recorded yoga nidra meditation will be yours. And of course, my special guest is Sandy Newbigging. I've known Sandy for years, since I was a Hay House author. He's a best-selling author. He's absolute king of meditation, really knows his stuff. He's got very interesting tales to tell. But we're going to chat to Sandy, and he's going to lead us in a special meditation for setting intentions. I'm really looking forward to that. If you're thinking, oh God, no, I've never done meditation, I don't want to do it, well, just come for the first bit. You don't have to stay, but absolutely no experience is necessary. We will not pressure you to put your camera on or anything. It's not like that. It's very informal, very low key, but I think you'll find it unbelievably amazing and beneficial. It really is special to, at the start of a new year, really properly release with gratitude and set those intentions for what it is you want for the coming year with real kind of clarity and grace. So, the year in review, then the highlights, the reflections, looking back at my year of podcasting. It has been a year in terms of the podcast filled with some really memorable stuff. So last January, I kicked off the year with a really interesting conversation with Anthony Hutton, former Big Brother winner, of course, now the man behind Throw in the Towel. And he was really it was just he opened up so candidly really about his journey from fast living, literally had every big car going, to burnout, to becoming a real champion for men's mental health and well-being. And then I got to meet up with Anthony at an event hosted by one of our coaches, one of our sober coaches, Andy Blackman. So that was great to actually meet him in person. And then talking of sober coaches, also in January, I had a great chat with one of our coaches, Lindsay Henneke, who shared her story of transitioning from corporate burnout, a proper full-on corporate job, to becoming a sober coach. And I was just blown away by her courage to just leave a job and forge a new path. It's a real turning point for her and a real proof that sobriety makes you brave. It really does. Being sober, I've seen so many people just decide, actually, I do want a new purpose. I do want something different for my life, and I'm going to go after it. And then into February, I had a really interesting experience. I actually did a live podcast from a rehab center somewhere, I'd never been to one before. I'm very grateful that I never hit rock bottom. It was never anything that was needed for me. But Delamere is such a unique place. It has a totally holistic approach. It totally blew me away. I loved visiting there, and their philosophy is really worth a look if you or someone is in that position. So it's episode 271, I think. I've actually not jotted that down very clearly, but anyway, around then, last February anyway. So I interviewed the main man there, Martin, and a few of the guests that have been there, who shared their story. It was fantastic, so inspirational, amazing place. And then also in February, Rob Hobson, great nutritionist, joined me to discuss the role of nutrition in recovery. You will have heard me say 1,000 times, if your early days of ditching the booze, the what you eat piece is really key. And I know that, people tend to get a sugar head on. It's something we discussed in the interview. And really, it's not the best time to be trying to quit sugar as well. That's not what this is about. It's a good time to just be kind to yourself and to accept that you might start to crave sugar. However, the better you eat, the better you're going to feel. So do some sugar swaps. We've got lots of really amazing content around that in the Sober Club. And above all, focus on the meals that you are eating, and don't do that skipping meals thing that people do. So it's a topic that I'm really passionate about, because balancing those brain chemicals in the early weeks of sobriety is really key. So we spoke about focusing on eating as much unprocessed food as you possibly can. And Rob's very, very knowledgeable. He's also done some sessions for us in the Sober Club around sober sleep, around how you can get good sleep. So he was a great guest. And then, of course, February, halfway through February, recorded a very heartfelt tribute. It's also on YouTube, to Steve Wright, my boss and friend for 24 years, who passed away that week. And if you remember that episode, you'll know Steve played a huge role in my life. And I couldn't focus on anything else. So the whole podcast was was about that, about my reflections of working with Steve. And it is relevant to this podcast, because I owe my sobriety to being on that show. Because if I hadn't have been on that show, then we wouldn't have been interviewing Claire Pooley, and I wouldn't have been handed a copy of her book. Or at least I may not have actually read it, or held on to my sobriety till Claire came in to be interviewed. So that was just over 7 years ago, and I'm so grateful to have been part of that show for all of those years. It's been lovely doing my book tour. My book From Wham to Woo, Life on the Mic is came out in October, and it's been great doing the tour. I've been doing some bookshops and some events, and it's been lovely to meet a real variety of people at those gigs. Some podcast listeners, so thank you for coming. Sober Club members, and lots, oh, and of course some Wham fans, but lots and lots of Steve Wright listeners, who just, I don't know, just hold him in such great esteem. Really, he really was beloved. I don't think he could have possibly have imagined the outpouring of love that would still be going on for him. So that was back in last February. And then March and April, well, March, we had a bit of a detox themed episode where I replayed a bit of my interview with the lovely Happy Pear duo. And then I got to meet them at the Natural Organic Products Show a couple of weeks later. It's such a treat to meet those guys. And then in early April, I spoke with Susan again from Whole Sober about FAB, which is not in fact FAB at all. It stands for Fading Affect Bias, and how so often we look back at our drinking days with rose-coloured specks, and actually the reality is, we've just kind of blocked out the bad bits, and we look back at the rosy stuff. Oh, wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be lovely just to have a nice glass by the fire? Well, actually, no, it really wouldn't. And then episode 280 featured Michael from Happy Without the Hooch. So that was a really fun podcast. We did it live at Club Soda. We had such a laugh, and I think the overriding mantra from that particular podcast was say yes to everything. That was what Michael was finding himself doing, saying yes to everything. It's a relatively good mantra, unless of course you need to say no, and that's fine too. And then May and June. May was all about raising your vibration. I did a whole episode on how do we raise our vibration? It's probably not anything you'd even considered before you got involved in sobriety talk, but it's important, where we place our energy and who we spend our time with. And then episode 288 was a conversation with Rory Kinsella, a Vedic meditation teacher from Australia, about the transformative power of meditation. It's a topic that I touch on a fair bit in the podcast. Not least because I avoided it completely when I was drinking, not because I didn't believe that it was incredibly beneficial, but because I just couldn't do it. I couldn't sit still for 5 minutes, let alone have the uncomfortable agony of being with my own thoughts. So that was a fascinating episode. And then in June, we revisited an interview with Pop Buchanan from Sober is Dope. I loved that chat. His energy and his insights, totally infectious. Amazing sound bites from Pop Buchanan. And then later that month, Susan from Whole Sober joined me again for a discussion on setting boundaries. As I've already said, it's a vital topic in our sobriety journey, setting boundaries. You've heard me say many times, I think, that I used to think that people who set boundaries were just, mean people. But actually, I now realize it's critical. And then July and August, July I hosted a live podcast again, and Claire Pooley was my guest again. It was just fantastic to have Claire as a guest because we were talking obviously not only about her first book, The Sober Diaries, and how that, launched my sobriety, and her incredible success, but also her novels. And of course, she's had several best-selling novels now, and I mean, they're all fantastic. I'm such a big fan of Claire's books. Alex Clapp from Clarity joined us, talking about workplace well-being. It's a topic that I'm increasingly finding myself talking about. How those of you who have work for big companies, big organizations, you'll know that so much time is put aside for the well-being of employees, rightly so. And often the talk is around stress management and time management, and possibly even ditching smoking, but it's rare that the conversation of alcohol comes up because it's such a sticking point, in most companies. So but it needs to change. We need to remove the stigma. So Clarity are doing some amazing work. And then, of course, later in the year, we joined forces with Alex and Clarity and celebrated the Sober Club's fifth birthday with an event in London. And then a really great moment as well was my interview with Christine Kant, a very powerful story. She was a former one-to-one coaching client of mine. She's one of the coaching clients that I so wish I could have videoed. It wouldn't be ethical at all, would it? But wouldn't it be amazing if we'd seen her transformation? I mean, really, just unbelievable. She is now a trained sober coach. She trained with me. She's doing fantastic work at No Crave. And then on in August, we reflected on 5 years of the Sober Club, and as I say, we had our event in September, early September in London. And then into October, that was one of my favorite episodes we did in October with Jennifer Bridgman. I met Jennifer in Madrid when I went to the Whole is Sober. I spoke at the Whole is Sober event. And she shared her really very non-linear journey to sobriety with so much honesty, so much vulnerability. And similarly, I think it was the following week, Linda Redmond, she shared her story of relapse and resilience. And that one rang true, I think, for so many listeners. I think I had probably more messages about that podcast than many that I've had for a long time, because Linda was sober for something like 17 years and then went back to drinking, went back. Oh my goodness. But she's since completely rebuilt her life. And our message was just so powerful, so relatable. And then we chatted in November to Lynn Dewar, who is a member of the Sober Club, and she shared her amazing story of transformation. So many of Lynn's health conditions cleared or improved, and she ditched the excess weight as well. I mean, never let it be said that quitting alcohol, doesn't just make stuff better. I'm not saying that every single ailment you've ever had will improve or clear, but I mean, let's face it, you're certainly not going to get worse. That's for sure. And then we chatted with Laura Starkey to discuss somatic wellness, yoga nidra, and just how important it is to be aware of the somatic, to be able to kind of drop back into the body when we're feeling anxious and tense. I think we spend so much of our lives, in our head, as it were. And of course, we reach for a drink to get out of our head. And we need healthier ways to step away from the thoughts and step away from the cravings and step away from the noise. And one of the quickest ways to do that is just to drop into the body, just let the body take it, just shake it out, go and dance, go for a run, go and sit with your back against a tree, do some yoga stretches, just let the body take it, rather than just always trying to think our way through it. And then in December, we wrapped up the year with practical tips for navigating a sober Christmas. Of course, just a couple of weeks ago, Susan from Whole is Sober. And then last week's podcast was another chance to hear Joe Creed, who is a master NLP trainer, reminding us of how not to hit the fuck it button. I mean, at any point, really, but particularly over the festive season, staying on track during the holidays. So if you haven't listened to that one yet, and you are early days, make sure you have listened to it before New Year. That will hopefully stand you in good stead. Joe is part of our Sober Coach training program as well, offering some fantastic, tips and techniques around NLP. So that's kind of what we did across the year, or some of the highlights anyway that I can remember. A huge thank you for being part of this podcast. I do think of you as part of it. If you enjoyed a particular episode, or if you remember anything from any of the episodes and you want to drop me a line, please do. It's really lovely hearing what's landed with you. And if you want me to rerun any clips from episodes, I'm always happy to do that. So anything that you found heartwarming, or anything that you found to be a really valuable bit of advice, then please drop me a message. You can find me at Janey Lee Grace. Make sure you follow me on social media, or just drop me an email. Another reminder, please download our free ebook. If you go to the soberclub.com You'll see the link there. It's called Sobriety Rocks 25 Sobriety Tips for 2025. It's from our sober coaches. I'm so grateful to them for putting in their time to come up with these tips. And it's a bit of a labor of love. So we would really appreciate if you would download it from the link that we give you. And give us a nice review, because it makes such a big difference on Amazon. It's only a short ebook, but it's our little gift to you. Whatever stage you're at, please download it. We'd really appreciate that. And you'll find the link to the download link will be in the show notes. And as I say, you can just go to thesoberclub.com and download it there. And while you're there, please go to thesoberclub.com/events. And that's where you'll find the link to register for our very special online workshop on Thursday, the 2nd of January. And that's where we're going to be looking at what we can release from the year just gone, what we can release with gratitude, and setting our intentions for 2025. And as I've already said, if you're not around at 5 o'clock on that 2nd of January, then you can still join us, because we will make sure that you get a recording. So it'd be fantastic to have you as part of that on Thursday, the 2nd of January, setting your intentions for 2025. So have yourself a fantastic new year. Stay connected. If you're struggling at the moment, everything that I talk about is very much positive. It's very positive. I really try and focus on the positive. But the reality is that, sometimes things are hard. And if they're hard for you, then reach out. It's always somebody who's, been there, done it, got the t-shirt. That's why the Sober Club is so powerful. Join us, if you haven't already, consider joining us. Even if you leave us after a month, you'll still get all the lovely free gifts. You still get to be part of everything. It's super cheap, amazing value, and you get to reach out to other people, and we become your cheerleaders. But if that's not for you, just drop me a message anyway. I will do my best to hold the vision for you. Thank you so much for being part of everything that we do here at the Sober Club and the Alcohol Free Life podcast. And all that remains is for me to say, I really hope you have a fantastic new year. And hopefully I'll see some of you on January the 2nd for our workshop. See you soon. Well, I'll see you next year. Thank you for listening to the Alcohol Free Life podcast, brought to you by the Sober Club. Please rate and review. And if you want support, accountability and inspiration, and you want to live your best life without the booze, check out thesoberclub.com.